What's going on, and thanks for tuning back in. So for this video, I want to talk to you guys about how to do a smoky eye. Stay tuned. Alright, so let's just get straight into it. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Durell Morgan and I'm a makeup artist and beauty photographer. And I wanted to do this video. I recorded this footage back in January before all of this Corona stuff occurred. So I hope that everybody's being safe and following the directions to remain safe. So this was recorded before all of this happened. So I'm good, Naja's good. We weren't in contact since all of this occurred. But this is definitely something that I feel like a lot of people, makeup artists and consumer, struggle with. Everybody is petrified of doing smoky eyes, and it's literally probably one of the eye looks that can be changed in so many different ways. And I remember starting to do makeup on people other than myself when I used to practice. It was the first thing I had to do. I was doing hair shows in Jersey and probably getting like $20, $25 per person. And it was a smoky eye, a lash, and a nude lip. So it was something that I had to kind of learn to master. At the very, very beginning, it was something that needed to look good under really heavy light. I had to be pretty fast in doing it because there was a lot of people in the hair shows. And of course, if you're making money per face, you need to get as many faces in your chair as possible. So there's so many different variations into doing this smoky eye. One of my favorite ways to do it is with just eyeliner. Just taking a liner, lining either up and lower, smudging it out and setting it with the shadow. You can do it where there's lighter color in the center and darker color in the inner corner and outer corner. You can do it with a cream if you start it really thick at the lash line and kind of let it fade up to the lighter color or transcending color going up towards the crease. Definitely not up to the brow bone unless that's what you're going for. So there's just so many different ways to do it. But the one thing that I would say that most people fear is looking like a raccoon, right? So that comes from if you've done your foundation first, you've done your concealer and whatever products that you're using, they have fallout. So the shadow falls underneath here. And if you're like trying to put concealer over it, you're basically putting concealer over the fallout that you created. So what you're doing is contouring the under eye area. So that's where the whole raccoon thing comes from. But like I said, there's so many different ways to do this eye. I kept it really simple. There's no eyeshadow primer. There's no liner on the lower lid. There's no false lashes, there's no mascara. So you can kind of tweak this on your own, and I literally only use three colors. Lighter shade, crease color, and then a darker color to just kind of accentuate Naja's features. So this video is going to be in three parts. So we're starting with the smoky eye. I'm going to show you how to do and match and apply your foundation. And I'm also going to show you guys the difference between using pencils to fill in your brows and using powders to fill in your brows. So this is a three-part video. This is part one. We're starting off with the eye, even though the makeup was already done. I'm just doing it in kind of a reverse order. Is this something that you can wear in the daytime? Of course. Is this something that can be altered and changed into a nighttime look? Of course. So just use this kind of as a guide as to how to do a smoky eye on yourself or on your clients. Try it out. If it does not work, you can always take it off. Makeup is not permanent and there are really no set rules. Yeah, let's get into it. So this is the look with just the foundation. So now let's go into the eyes. So I'm using a neutral tone eyeshadow just to kind of give me a guide to direct me through Naja's crease. And the place where you first put your shadow is going to have the highest concentration, right? So looking at Naja's eye shape, I want the focus to really be on the outer corner. The area of her crease near her nose, I think has a good amount of definition. So I really don't want to make that look deeper than what it is. So by concentrating the shadow on the outer part of her eye, really just pushes that part of her crease back. And it's going to be a really great backdrop for me to go in and add darker colors to almost kind of do a sort of cut crease, but not really a cut crease. So just by building up my shading, going from a neutral tone to something darker will really help this eye just be really intense, but can still be diffused. And you can just build and build and build when you're working with your kind of mid-tone colors, because this isn't the color that I want to be the focus of the smoke, right? So I'm going to go with a darker color to really give that drama. But before I have that darker color, that mid-tone color just really tells me where her crease is, or if I'm creating a false look of a crease, is really just my guideline. So, in layman's terms, I'm using a mid tone to kind of map out the shape that I want to create on Naja's eye. And the most important part about a smoky eye is really a gradation of color. For this eye, a darker crease fading up into this mid-tone. So do not be afraid to blend, and think of it almost as like a cloud that you're trying to create on the eye when you're using darker colors. And it's easier to work from dark lighters to darkers versus you going from really dark colors and trying to blend that out. You're going to make yourself work a lot harder. So here's the palette that I'm using. So that mid-tone color is the color in the center. So now I'm using the darker color, which has a little bit of a reflex in it. Typically, when you're using colors in the crease, you want them to be matte. You don't want them to have shimmer, but this shimmer wasn't really present. So now I'm changing up my brush. I'm using a standard eyeshadow brush that I'm just kind of using the edges of to kind of sketch out or carve out over the mid-tone color that I just did. And I'm really just using that mid-tone color as my guide to just go in and just really sculpt and sculpt and sculpt and sculpt and sculpt. So you're gonna see me go between a regular eyeshadow brush and then a blending brush. A flatter brush is gonna have more concentration of the pigment. A fluffier brush or more rounded tip brush is gonna really be great for blending because it's a softer pickup of product and it's a larger area in regards to blending. So now you see I'm using the tip of that brush to take the color from the crease outer corner and start to bring it down toward the lash line. I'm not using the entire brush. I'm literally just using the tips, loaded it up with the color and just creating a shape. And now with that fluffier brush that still has a little bit of that mid-tone color over it, we're gonna blend out that harsh line that we just created. I want this to just fade. I want these colors to just kind of melt in between one another. The only drama or kind of graphicness that I want from this would be the shape, pulling her eye up, giving her lift, but where the colors kind of kiss one another, I want those colors to just kind of gradate between. As you can see, we also don't have any color on the lid yet because I'm really just working on the intensity of that darkness on the outer corner, making sure that I have the shape that I want. I have the color intensity that I want, and I can just keep building as I go, adding a little bit, blending out, adding a little bit, blending out. Smoky eyes allow you to customize, but again, it's so much easier to work from your middle tones or your lighter colors and then getting into your darker shades. Now, this brush has nothing on it, but a trick that you can do if you feel like your edges get a little harsh, if you take a translucent powder or a loose powder that is close to your skin color, you can blend out the edges. So now with a smaller eyeshadow brush, now I'm going in with the color that I want to kind of be the highlight per se. It's like a champagne-y color. It's in the MAC, I think the 16 color palette, whichever the large neutral palette that MAC has. I just picked a neutral champagne-y tone to just really start to create some depth and really start to pull this part of the eye forward. So if you notice, I'm just using really small tapping motions, and I'm also using a smaller brush because I want these colors to be concentrated, right? So with a smaller brush, you are focusing on your placement. With a larger brush, you're just kind of covering a general area. And again, I'm really just building up, building up, building up. So you do a little bit, you stop, see where you are, do a little bit more, stop, see where you are. If you're creating really harsh lines, you're gonna go and blend, but it's all about the build up, all about the build up. And if there's any fallout, you can just use your powder brush to wipe it away. So we're not going to use liner, but we are going to use the darker eyeshadow to frame the eye. And now I'm using a flat eyeliner brush. And I'm doing this pretty much the way you would do a liquid or a cream. Small little sketches, really close to the lash line. I love using flat liner brushes because it gives you a graphic line that's also diffused at the edges. So I don't have to go over this and smoke this out and look at that shape. It's also really important when you're doing the outer corner or any type of eye makeup that you have your model open their eyes. You need to see what that crease looks like and what it reads from afar and with the eye open, because nobody's walking around with eye makeup with their eyes closed. The eyes are open, the eyes are beautiful, and then just repeat the steps on the other side until you get a great look that you can pretty much do this for anything. So I hope that this video has been helpful in teaching you guys a little bit more about how to not fear doing smoky eyes, but there's part 2. I want to talk to you guys about foundations, so click the link below, and if you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe.